It started with the sound of metal scraping against wood. The bedroom lock gave way with a sharp rattle, and before I could lift my head, the door slammed open. Light from the hallway spilled in, cutting the darkness across my bed like a blade. My mother stood in the doorway, her shape swollen with shadow, hand already reaching for me. I barely had time to sit up before her fingers dug into my wrist. She pulled hard, yanking the covers off as her voice echoed through the stillness. "Get up." Her nails scratched her skin. The hallway floor was cold against my heels as I stumbled behind her, still half asleep and confused. By the time we reached the front door, my father was waiting, arms crossed, no emotion on his face. The porch light above flickered, casting his shadow long across the tiles. I saw Rachel by the window, grinning. Her phone is already recording. It was like they'd rehearsed this, like my existence was just one more show to put on. Outside, the air slapped my face. The concrete bit into my bare knees as she shoved me down. My legs scraped and stung, but I stayed still. I didn't scream, didn't cry. Just stared at the cracked sidewalk, breathing slowly as her voice curled around me. "Beg," she said. "Beg like the dog you are." I looked up at them, all three. They laughed as if this was something to remember, something worth watching again. Rachel whispered something cruel. My father shook his head, pretending to be disappointed. My mother crossed her arms and waited. That silence, that moment, stretched so long it burned. But even in that pain, something inside me didn't break. It curled up, small and sharp. A promise made without words. I didn't need to fight them that night. I needed to remember, not just the faces, the weight of the air, the cold of the porch light, the sound of their voices when they thought I was powerless. They thought they broke me. But I was only just beginning. I walked for hours after they closed the door. No plan. No shoes. Just the sound of my own steps on the pavement and the hum of streetlights overhead. I kept moving because standing still felt too close to giving up. The night stretched out like a tunnel, and time didn't pass the way it used to. I sat behind a liquor store until the sun came up, my back pressed against a dumpster, my legs curled into my chest. At some point, a clerk tossed a box near me, didn't say a word, just went back inside like I was a shadow. The next night, I curled up on a bench at the bus station, jacket zipped tight, arms crossed. People walked past like I wasn't there. Some glanced. Most didn't. I started to wonder if I'd disappeared. The silence made it easy to forget I used to belong somewhere. They had shoved $5 into my hand before slamming the door. I could have spent it on water, maybe a sandwich. But I didn't. I kept it. I found a notebook in a trash pile, ripped out a clean page, and taped the bill in the center. I wrote one line next to it. "This is what they think I'm worth." That small act kept me upright. Not out of pride, but focus. Every time I looked at that page, I remembered. Not the hurt, not the begging, the decision. If they believed I was worth $5, I'd make them regret underestimating me. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just moved forward, one night at a time. The cold didn't kill me. It forged me. I got the diner job on a Tuesday. The manager caught me staring at the help wanted sign too long and told me to come back in the morning. It paid just above minimum wage and the uniform smelled like burnt grease, but it was something I could hold on to. The work was brutal. 10-hour shifts doubled when someone called out. My feet ached from carrying trays and my fingers cracked from washing dishes in scalding water. But I showed up every day. Always on time. Always quiet. On my second paycheck, I bought a calculator and a used copy of a basic accounting workbook from a thrift shop. I still had the notebook with the $5 bill taped inside. I started using the back pages to record every cent I earned, spent, and saved. Rent, food, bus fare, even the cost of laundry. I wasn't just trying to survive. I was building a system. I found free online courses through the public library. Bookkeeping, spreadsheets, and IRS regulations. I learned how taxes worked, how debt compounds, and how credit ruins people slowly, not all at once. The average household debt in America is over $100,000. I promised myself I would never be one of those numbers. I opened my first checking account with $140 and a photo ID from the diner. The banker barely looked at me. I didn't care. I wasn't there for approval. I was there to start something no one could take from me. Every time I passed $100 in savings, I marked it with a tiny star in my notebook. When I hit $500, I stopped for the first time in months and just breathed. That money wasn't about freedom. It was proof that I could make choices again. I didn't tell anyone. No Facebook post, no story, no bragging. This wasn't for them. It was for the version of me who had knelt on the sidewalk in the cold, too ashamed to speak. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was building leverage. And brick by brick, number by number, I started to feel whole. Not because I had power, but because I had a plan. Discipline became my way out. My calm, quiet rebellion. I didn't follow them. I just stayed connected the way everyone else does. Social media posts, tagged locations, public photos. My mother posed at dinner parties with her hand near her face, showing off rings I knew she hadn't worn in years. My father grilled steaks by the pool, his watch too shiny, his smile too wide. Rachel posted unboxing videos of designer bags and captioned them with empty phrases like, "earned it." But the details betrayed them. A different necklace here, a missing bracelet there. I recognized the pattern. I knew what it meant when someone wore their best pieces in rotation. I knew what it meant when they post more, not less. It wasn't joy. It was covered. One video showed Rachel driving a new car, but she never mentioned financing. 2 weeks later, the car was gone. The average American carries over $6,000 in credit card debt. They were past that, and I could see it. The kind of financial denial that hides behind group photos and brunch selfies. They'd borrowed too long against a reputation that was crumbling underneath them. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel hate. Just clarity. Their power had always been a mask, built on silence, credit, charm, and fear. And now the mask was slipping. What they called strength was just staging. What they called family was just control. And I was the only one who saw the foundation cracking. I made copies of everything. The foreclosure warnings, the credit card default notices. The past due bills were stacked months deep. I printed them in black and white, no names, just numbers, addresses, and balances. I sealed each envelope without a return label and mailed them to the church, the country club, and the family friends they used to boast in front of. I didn't sign anything. I didn't need to. The truth didn't need my name. It only needed air. And once it was out, the silence started to shift. Invitations stopped coming. Smiles got shorter. My father's business partners pulled out of a deal the same week the bank issued its final notice. I waited until the repossession letter arrived, the one that gave them 30 days to leave. Then I walked back into that house for the first time since they'd dragged me out like trash. I didn't knock. I opened the door and stepped in as if I'd never left. They were seated around the kitchen table, faces pale, eyes hollow, papers spread like a battlefield between them. My father stood too quickly. My mother froze. Rachel gripped her phone but didn't raise it. No one said my name. I didn't ask for it. I reached into my coat, pulled out a folded bill, and dropped it in the center of the table. It fluttered once, landed quietly between overdue notices and a final demand from the bank. $5. That was what they thought I was worth. No one moved. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. I let the silence stretch until it spoke for me. Let them remember what it felt like to be seen without the mask. Let them sit in the wreckage they once called home. I turned, walked back out, and left the door open behind me. Not to invite them in, but to remind them how it felt to lose control. They came to the diner 2 days after I left the house. My father stood by the window while my mother hovered by the door, clutching a worn purse as if it still held pride. Rachel waited outside, pacing, pretending she wasn't crying. They didn't yell. They asked. Voices softer than I remembered. words they'd never used before. Please, just talk to us. They called at night. They sent long texts full of explanations and half-formed apologies. They said they didn't mean it. It was a bad night. That families say things they don't mean. But I didn't reply. I didn't delete the messages either. I read them once. Then I let them sit, unanswered, like I had once sat on the curb in the dark. The last time I saw them together, they were outside the house, holding boxes, the foreclosure notice taped to the front door. Their clothes looked worn. Their posture was different. Smaller. They didn't see me at first. Then my father looked up, face tight with shame, and said it again. Please, help us. I didn't flinch. I didn't smile. I stepped close enough for them to hear me clearly, then said what they had once thrown at me without mercy. Beg like the humans you forgot how to be. I wasn't angry. I wasn't proud. I was simply done. I walked away not because they were broken, but because I no longer needed to carry what they broke. I had nothing left to prove. Nothing left to demand. That was the freedom I had been building all along. Not power over them, just peace within myself. The apartment is small but quiet. The windows creak when it rains, and the heater makes a soft ticking sound when it kicks in. I've grown to like that sound. It reminds me that I'm safe. Most nights, I sit by the window with a cup of tea and the notebook I started all those years ago. The $5 bill is still taped to the first page, worn and curling at the edges. I used to look at it and feel hollow. Now I see it and feel steady. They took a lot from me. My place to sleep, my family, the version of myself that used to believe everything they said. But in that silence, in that long space where I had nothing, I found something else. I found my voice. Tonight I wrote one last line in the notebook. Not for them. For me. I was never worthless. I was just unfinished. If someone once made you feel small, remember this. You are not defined by what they called you or how they treated you. You are defined by what you decide to become next. If you've lived through a moment like this, share it in the comments. Not for sympathy, but because someone else might need to know they're not alone. Your story could be the light they've been waiting for.